bridge collapsed. The mountain road washed out. All the signs are obscured by fog. Your only directions are detours. Eventually it dawns on you. Sometimes you need to get lost to discover where you're supposed to be. Welcome to Merlin's Barn.
Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, or whatever other time you can think of, and welcome to another episode of Merlin's Barn, broadcasting to you live from Fort Blanket, south of the Yukon. And today you have myself, Merlin, and
T.
And the pair of us are going to regale you with the tale today of why do we live in a barn? How did this happen? Which could sound like, oh, that's rather boring. I'm going to turn off and go somewhere else. But it is interesting. Yeah, it's a definite adventure. It's a definite Merlin's World type of thing, because in no way whatsoever did I plan to move into a gigantic barn and create a community center and things like that. It all just happened in
That's
the
kind of
way.
how my life rolls. Things just kind of happen. I'm like, oh, we're here now. Okay.
Yeah, and that's just sort of. This definitively was not on my to-do list. So we're going to jump back to 2018, and to give you a little bit of setup. 2018, I had lived on a farm in Westminster. It was a little 5-acre farmette with a Gothic brick Victorian farmhouse and a bunch of outbuildings. And I'd been there since like 2005, so 13 years. And I remember buying it and thinking, this is awesome. It's almost like buying a little village with the neat little barns and this cool little smokehouse with a bell-shaped roof. And to me, it seemed like a little piece of New England because it was in a valley and had like pine tree, had a pine forest and everything. So it reminded me of where I grew up north. And so my first wife and I bought it. Then a couple of years later, split up, and in the beginning of a long series of really bad decisions, I decided to keep the place, which I could sort of barely afford as on my teaching salary. It was much better when you had two people actually working. Then in 2010, I went from teaching in public schools and took a massive pay cut and went to working in a private school, Boys Latin of Baltimore, which is a very, very nice place. And that's a whole nother story of how I ended up with that job. I'm still there today. I absolutely love it. As we head towards a month left before school starts, or 5 weeks left, I'm sitting here.
Countdown.
Yeah, I know. Well, it's, with my to-do list that I have, I'm sitting here going through my to-do list going, okay, I have to fix this before school starts, and this before school starts, and this before school starts.
I know, but it's gone so fast, and I don't feel like I've done anything I was intending to, and I'm just like,
This is why I created this really daunting checklist. But I can at least go through and put done on a few things.
I guess my to-do list was more abstract,
Oh, okay.
that doesn't help.
No, I definitely need the things I can click off.
Yeah,
So
mine would just feel like a human again.
yeah, so going there, and taking a major pay cut, sort of had to figure out something to do to keep paying the rather insane barn mortgage. And got the ridiculously horrible idea of starting a Jeep shop, or actually starting an antique auto repair shop that then turned into a Jeep shop. If you've heard the episode where Merlin does reality TV, that'll give you more background on that. And so it got to the point where I had a staff, which, by the way, if you're somebody who's teaching full-time and you're also running a shop, that's bad, because you get to find out at the end of the day what people screwed up. It's really hard to keep control of anything. So I got to the point by 2018 where I was spending all of my time working to pay the mortgage on a farm which was just going downhill because I was never there to maintain it. I mean, it would come down to mow the field or work in the shop and make money to pay the mortgage, paint the trim on the house, or work on the shop to make money to pay the mortgage. It just went on and on and on. And during that time, my ex worked at the Westminster Mall in security, and I met an absolutely amazing human being, John LeBron, who was my best friend and passed away last year in 2024. And he made it part of his job in life to keep an eye on me at the shop because he knew that I can't handle heat. Part of my family's from Canada. I'm from New England. I'm not supposed to be down here. And the old buildings that we were in, I mean, you can testify. What's your commentary on those shop buildings and the heat?
Thank God at least now you're above the Mason-Dixon.
We've got that. But
Yeah.
what do you do? Do you remember the old tin shop buildings?
Unfortunately.
Yeah. There's like...
No, that was sweltering. We're lucky that I didn't have any sensory meltdowns. The sweat, being covered in stuff. I think at that point to me, though, being covered in stuff was like, I did shit. I like, accomplished something.
Yeah.
So I refused to clean up until I got home. No, it was sweltering and exhausting. And just, like, being in those buildings is what caused it. It wasn't even the work we were doing.
Yeah, the buildings were... and they were a whole other story, but they were part of it was an old McCreary retread plant that all of the insulation had collapsed from the ceilings. So we were working essentially in a giant tin can in Maryland, and Maryland summers were the worst. So John would come down, would get off shift at the sheriff's office and hit the Royal Farms and load up with Gatorade, whatever else, show up at the shop, usually find me working on something, but not totally coherent as to the fact that there was a world going on around me, and then shuffle me over to sit in the air-conditioned car for a bit. We also didn't have a bathroom in those places. I remember going through...
No, there was. It wasn't great, but there was.
Oh, yeah, when we got that one building,
The
you're right.
clowns.
Yeah, it was the Clown Nightmare bathroom. So we did have a bathroom.
There weren't actual clowns. It was just how I was introduced to where the bathroom was.
You had to go through this tarp. It was terrifying.
It was odd.
I remember going through at one point and just taking a, not thermostat, you read temperature, it's up on the wall.
A thermometer?
Thank you, thermometer. And putting it in different corners of the shop, and one corner of the shop regularly got up to 125 degrees by midday. So my life was working in the shop, and during the school year, it would be coming home from school, stopping somewhere, grabbing some horrible piece of fast food, and then heading over to the shop and working in the shop until 10 o'clock, and then heading back to the farm. So that wasn't fun, and it was getting really, really untenable. And so finally, it was in spring of 2018. I went through and checked my texts today and Facebook messages, but I couldn't find it. I forget how John sent it to me. Might have been an email. He might have called me and said, go check your email. But he sent me a Zillow listing with a note that said, Merlin, this could be the solution to all of your problems. And the Zillow listing was for this massive barn-looking structure in Littlestown, PA, and it gave the address. And I've driven through Littlestown since the late 90s, going up to Newville, PA, going up to Gettysburg. So looking at pictures of this giant structure, I mean, it's huge gymnasium-sized thing, and I'm going, and it's apparently on the main North-South Street. And I'm sitting there going, I remember I sent him a note. I said, that can't be there. I've never seen it. And finally, I got on Google Earth and took a look and zoomed in, and sure enough, on the satellite, you could see this property that was not just this barn, but had a side building and also had a field and was hidden in the center of the neighborhood. It
Very
had,
nicely concealed by some giant hedging
yes, giant overgrown hedges, giant overgrown
back from the
trees.
road.
You have to, like going through town, you would have to absolutely know where it is, and it would have to be winter for you to be able to see the building. So for my 20 years of driving through the town, there was no way I was ever going to see it. So he sends me that, and I started obsessing over the weird photos and trying to figure out from all these strange angular photos how this building goes together, because there's a house in it, and there's workshops, and there's stairs and weird corners and this strange apartment with sections of shag carpeting in it.
Yeah.
There's a lot of weird stuff going on. And
Would you like to tell them how you described the original shag carpeting?
the shag carpeting in the upper house, my impression of it by both vision and smell was that somebody had run over Fozzie Bear and perhaps several other Muppets with a steamroller and used them as carpeting. Is that the one you were
Yes.
looking for?
Yes.
Yeah, that was.
Muppets.
So, and it was all overgrown outside, but I'm looking at this going, this is insanely cheap, and by the measurements, it looks like I can fit the entire auto shop into this place and move my house in upstairs and still have another building that for storage.
Still
So
have a whole half an upstairs. That's like a indoor-outdoor porch. I don't know how to describe the loft in a way to make it make sense.
I think we've described it before. The loft it's an unfinished hayloft. We're partially finished because we've got the movie theater and the bar. It's just not
true.
HVAC'd because
It's a lot.
it's a lot of expense. We did have some friends donate HVAC for up there. We just haven't
we
put
have
it in.
the other part in the peak too.
Yeah,
The
there's
Dream
a,
Library. It's gonna be a
there's-
library one day.
there's a third level that we just sort of store stuff in right now.
One day.
But
Fancy library.
there were a few things going on. First off, I had a huge amount. I had shop rent. I had mortgage. I had all my bills. Every month was just a scramble to try and figure out how to pay all of these. On top of working with customers and everything, I dropped out of a lot of my hobbies by that point. I didn't show up for many reenactments or anything, just because everything. And I even feel bad for my ex, just for the fact that if there was something that came up that would be fun to do, it was immediately negated by, we need to not lose the house. But you can sort of see where this goes. It reaches a point where when I sort of think of it, I go, oh, I can't do this because I don't want to lose the stupid house. And then it just became, I just don't care about the house anymore. I have to keep paying this thing because I can't get out of it. Yeah. And so realized couldn't get a mortgage, wasn't totally sure how I'd do this, and didn't want to go up and didn't want to contact a broker to look at the place without actually having some plan. And one day I saw that I was just staring at the listing again, and I saw that there was going to be an open house. So headed up to Littlestown and wandered upstairs, and there was a nice fellow here who was the broker, and he was telling me, he was saying, don't forget there's this. And I looked at him, I said, I've been staring at pictures of this barn for a couple months now. I said, if I can just go explore, that'd be great. And he let me go explore. And it came out to be it was what I expected. I mean, when I first, it's looking at going,
1970s.
a lot of 1970s, a lot of weird.
Yeah.
Like there was the fiery mountain with like Jesus is watching or something painted on the doors.
Yeah. Wasn't there like a Raggedy Ann or something hanging from the
Yeah,
ceiling?
that'll come in a little bit. And
Annabelle Part 2.
yeah, but I looked at it and I was like, well, this is the size. We can literally move a farm and workshops into this entire property. And so I told the broker, I said I would get back to him. And when I did get back, I think a couple weeks later, I found out that there was an interested party, and the place was considered sold. which made me quite sad because I was looking at this going, and John and I had been talking about it. I was looking at this going, okay, this is the solution. This really could be the solution to all our problems. And then ditch the stupid farm. And then you were there the day I got the call a couple months later. What was that, like July or so? It had to be
Had to
July.
have been because I was working in the shop at that point, and it was the summer between junior and senior year.
Okay.
But yeah, we had taken a break, and I remember you very excitedly picking up the phone, which never happens.
I don't pick up the phone. I don't talk to people on the phone.
You don't get excited about the phone.
I definitely don't get excited about the phone.
But I remember the conversation turning into zoning because you were
Yeah.
asking about how can we have the shop here? How can we make that very specific piece happen? And I think the overall response was like, we just want to make sure there isn't like a Dunkin' drive-through going in this spot.
Yeah, that was...
That's down the street now.
It is. I'd gotten a call from the broker, and he calls me up and he says, I'm not officially the broker anymore. He says, I'm a friend of the family. He says, but would you still be interested in the barn? And I said to him, there's two things that I have to know, because it's listed as a residential commercial property. And I said, I'm going to have to check zoning and see if they'll allow us to do what we want to do here. And need to talk with the owner, who hopefully we'll have in on another episode, and she'll give us a lot more of her backstory with the barn. I need to talk to the owner and see if and see if she'll carry the mortgage on it, which I assume the answer is a big no, because I have no credit, but I can actually show that I can pay for this. And very quickly, the town's attitude was, yeah, how many customers are you going to have in? Because they just didn't want people rolling in and out of a residential neighborhood all the time. And I'm like, one, every couple weeks, maybe.
You were basically saying, yeah, your friends come by to help, and that's
Yeah.
kind of how it functions.
And moving in here, there was no staff coming with me. It was just going to be me trying to do everything. And in fact, for a few months, as we were moving things, I think we were still working down at the old shop. My guy Richard was still working on items, and I was working on items up here. Yeah, because I think there were 16 projects going on at that time.
I didn't realize that.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah, when we moved up here, 14 projects rolled onto this property.
That I knew. I didn't realize there was an initial like 16 in progress at the time, though.
Yeah, yes, there was a bunch of different things going on. So, and got the amazing call back from the owner, Camille, saying, hey, you show me the paperwork, we'll make a deal on this. Which, at that point, that was like the huge point for me where my life changed. I mean, it wasn't a good year to start with. My ex was coming and going. I didn't even know if I was really still married at that point or not. So there's a lot of other stress going on, and it was me running this business, teaching full-time, except on the summer, of course, and trying to figure out how to cover all the bills and maintain this farm that was rapidly getting out of control. So the next thing was I had floated this with my parents, and my parents had dealt with me in my 20s and 30s doing the stupid, and making some irrational decisions that put me in probably not the best money situations. And there was a lot of concern.
Yeah.
And so I brought a friend up who was a contractor and had him go through and sort of assess the physical structure, and figure out what we would need to do and stuff like that. It was basically, okay, the bones are good, we can build off of this. And then the next step, the next step was, how do I make these payments on top of or how do I make these payments and the down payment and everything like that on top of everything else that I'm doing? So I came up with a plan. I didn't want to leave my parents, who are amazingly supportive, out of this. So I was up visiting them, and I think I told my mom about it first. And then she's like, "Wow, that actually makes sense, and sounds like it will really save you a lot." And so then told it to my dad. My dad's sitting there going, "Oh yeah, that actually sounds really well thought out." And so then we started moving forward with the plan. And so I think we closed on, and the plan started to, and as I'm trying to figure this out, there is no way this would have happened without the massive community involvement that just completely surprised me. Because, I mean, I'd had that farm for almost 15 years, and people like to constantly give me weird things, and I was constantly coming up with new projects that I wasn't going to get to. So when you have a farm, you tend to fill up buildings with stuff, and I think I will admit I think some of it was almost hoarder level.
Well, you had a lot of big stuff, like there were cars students had asked you to watch over until they could come back for them, and then never came back and stuff like that.
Yeah, there was an attic filled with friends. The attic of my farmhouse was, I forgot about this, was actually filled with a friend's stuff who had never come back for it.
Exactly.
So, yeah, a lot of it wasn't totally my fault,
Nope. It's like Frank can store things.
but needs to come back for it.
Yeah.
So and actually, yeah, there were a bunch of storage situations on the farm. I forgot about that, where different people were storing things, and then as I'm getting ready to move, I'm going, "Do you want this?" And some people got back to me, and some people didn't. And
Really should have had him paying rent on that.
I'm too nice.
I know.
Yeah.
I love you. I know.
So the plan started to come together, and we had this one fellow who I always call him the angel investor. It's sort of like an investor who will like put money into something without expecting to get it back. And we'll call him. I've always just called him the Colonel, Colonel Joe. And a couple years before he had come to me, he had had a vehicle dropped off that my friend Richard had contacted me when it appeared at the shop and said, "Merlin, you need to come and take a look at this." And it was an absolute disaster of a Willys M38 Jeep. So I wrote a 4-page essay on why not to restore this and sent him a bunch of photographs of why not. And he called me up and he says, "Merlin, I think you're the first person who's been honest with me." He says, "But I have too much money in this to quit. So I need you to go through with this." And so he really helped out and put money in where it was needed in the shop over the years. And then he wanted to outfit his own shop, so I helped him do a massive purchase of cool tools using, not Snap-on because he didn't need it, but Cobalt and things like that. And so the Colonel came rolling in because he's always calling, asking how the business is and sort of coaching me along and hoping that I'm not totally in the hole. And he said to me, he says, "Okay." He says, "I'm going to pay the down payment." He says, "Don't worry about it." He says, "Also donating all of the tools that you helped me buy." So at this point, I had my shop tools. I now had all of his brand new shop tools and rolling work benches and toolboxes and stuff like that, and all the tools at the farm. And then he says, "I will also loan you my moving crew and the moving truck for a couple weekends if you need it." So Joe came in with that. And then other friends just started to roll in. A huge player was, and a shout out goes to my good friend Kevin Buck, who we met him through started working on a project with him. And then there's a whole other sidebars in there, but Kevin and Kevin got involved. His dad got involved with a gigantic flatbed truck. Friend Sean Corbin jumped in. Good friend Mike Pumphrey would just sit there and sort out everything on the shelves because what we had to go through was a whole farm. I mean, there was a house, 2 24 by 24 garages, and a barn, and a massive restoration shop with five storage connexes. And people just kept showing up, and the trucks rolled. And so the first weekend moving in here was Labor Day weekend, 2018. And we came up here, and at that point, there weren't even barn doors on the building anymore. One of the barn doors had been covered over, and there was just a glass pane door there that was actually literally hanging from the building. It wasn't. It was one hinge holding it on.
Oh no.
Yeah, and the
that one.
center bays, the center bays to the building where there should have been a barn door, there was a giant. Oh, geez, it was a gigantic bay window. And so I think I signed with Camille on the Friday night, and then we just went in and ripped out carpeting. And I had a friend staying with me who was a roommate at the time, the intent was to be a roommate, and he and a couple of the other guys, Peter Tata's another one. We just started rolling in on it, and so there was Labor Day weekend was ripping out, was like, I think Kevin Buck and my ex and Peter and an individual who'll go unnamed, and I'm sure I'm forgetting a couple people, just tearing into this building and getting sawzalls out and cutting barn doors back into it and attacking that bay window, which is the most heavy duty. That bay window was like a fortress.
Was it plexiglass?
No, it was actual glass. It was a gigantic 8 or 9 foot wide glass bay window.
Dang.
That was so well constructed that we were trying to figure out how to take it out nicely. Then we were trying to figure out how to take it out without breaking all the glass. Then we gave up and started using sledgehammers and drills and sawzalls. And it still took hours to pull this thing out of the building.
I had a feeling eventually sledgehammers were going to get involved with that.
Oh, we handed Peter a sledgehammer at one point because there was this whole one back bay, the one back section of the building was just filled with, because there had been a plumbing company in here at one point, was just filled with cubbyholes. Cubbyhole shelves. And so I just said, Peter, do you want some stress relief? And he just went back there. Then I think there was a chainsaw involved too. And they were just...
Definite stress relief.
Yeah, they were just destroyed. And so that weekend it was, by Monday, we had these barn doors up and we were painting them. And I remember my ex going up to this one pair of doors in between the shop bays that just had this fiery mountain with a cross on top. And it said something like Jesus is watching or whatever. I just heard this, hear this sort of da-da-da, no. And then she comes bopping up to me and says, do we have a lot of primer? And just made it her goal to cover the weird Jesus mountain. And I'm on the vestry of a church. I found it quite odd. There's a lot of weird stuff we found in here that's over the top.
It always makes me think of the hills have eyes for some reason.
Yeah, it
like
sort
that
of felt like that.
Yeah.
It really did. And I remember Peter at one point coming upstairs because I remember the unnamed one and Kevin were putting a floor in the main living room after we'd ripped Fozzie Bear out. And they came and the ex comes upstairs. Peter comes upstairs and says, Merlin, can you come and look at something? We find a Raggedy Ann doll sort of held up by a noose above a pipe. He's like, can I cut that down? I'm like, please, for the love of God. We also inherited a massive collection of oil lamps that I gave away to customers for a couple of years. I was like, take your Jeep and an oil lamp, please. Does your girlfriend like oil lamps? Does your wife like oil lamps? Do you reenact? I think Kevin Buck has a bunch of them that they use in his World War II encampment.
I wouldn't be surprised.
So he took some. And it was like the Monday morning of Labor Day weekend that I think I was painting the doors that I just installed where the bay window were, and I met neighbor Dave. Neighbor Dave is awesome. I mean, when I was moving in, I could just see this lovely vegetable garden right next to my driveway, and
Magical.
just this beautifully maintained property. I'm like, oh my goodness. And he appears on the porch. And so I turned to him and I introduced myself, and I said to him, I said, what do you think? And he's standing there. He's just sort of staring like a kid on Christmas morning, and he says, it looks like somebody cares. And so we talked for a little bit, and he told me about, and I'm sure we'll get this again from Camille when Camille comes in. He talked about the summer of trucks when Camille had inherited the building, and trucks were rolling in and out, just pulling stuff from this building because the building had been, the hayloft had been filled to the rafters with stuff. And then later on in the day, his wife, Grace, comes down, and we're talking, and she just says to me, she says, he is so happy that he's not going to have to chase people out of that building anymore. And, yeah, I don't know if I told you about that.
I don't think you did.
Yeah, he was, because of the broken doors and stuff like that, he was constantly keeping an eye on the building and seeing people just wander into it. There were squatters in here at one point. I mean, Camille had tried renting it out, but had gone through so many disasters of things breaking and everything like that.
I remember the renting.
Yeah, it was
That not going so well.
but it had been empty for a while before I got it. Because I mean, how many people are going to sit there and look at a 50 by 80 building that's seen a complete lack of maintenance over a period of time, other than what Camille did to keep it to upgrade the apartment, and go, I want this.
Just you freak.
Well, that's because I also enjoy such fun and exciting things like slamming my head in car doors or putting my hand right on top of the stove and holding it there. I have problems. So many problems.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I don't actually enjoy those things, so please don't worry too much about me.
I feel like half your job, though, is slamming heads into car doors.
We don't talk about that. That comes down with the whole Whitsick thing, and you weren't supposed to say that, and I probably shouldn't be responding to that on the...
You work in a Jeep shop.
Yeah, okay,
Things close on your head.
Yeah, okay, yeah, that's, yes, that's what we'll say. Yes, nice people, you didn't hear any of that. Everything's fine. So we had other things going on as people were just coming out of the woodwork and helping with everything. I mean, weekends throughout that fall, I got to the point where I had an old army cot in the living room of this place. We had pulled so much carpeting out of it because it was just disgusting. We had created what we nicknamed Fort Trash next to the building, where from throwing carpeting and mattresses and old furniture and stuff. And it was, I think it reached a point where it was 10 feet tall, probably about 20 feet long, a lot like that stack of weapons that Campera collected in Vismar, actually.
That's a nice comparison.
Yeah, and...
Vismar.
And it was massive. And it was all stuff that we just kept pulling out of the building. And so I was living on a cot, and people were coming up on weekends, and it was raining constantly. As people put it, 2018 was the year that it rained 3 times. What that means is it stopped for a day twice.
Yeah.
So we're rolling in and out of here with, I just remember one morning where Kevin and his dad were preparing to go down to the old shop and load more vehicles on the flatbed, and Kevin drops a note going, it's pouring, are we doing this? And I felt completely horrible, saying, yes, we have to. And they showed up with another flatbed filled with 3 vehicles from the old shop. And one of those days when it had been pouring, and when the U-Haul truck literally sank in mud. I mean, we had the U-Haul truck sank in mud in the driveway. We had another big stake bed truck that someone who had been borrowed, that they drove into the field and lost that up to the axles. That's how much it was raining nonstop. And
why would you drive that through a muddy field?
It didn't look muddy. We didn't know that it had become muddy. And
You got that much rain is kind of a non-question. it is going to be muddy.
Okay, I'm glad that you know that, and I'm not trying to be snippy, but we didn't.
Okay.
We also didn't know that there were water retention issues in that field.
That's a fair point. Didn't think about that one.
Yeah, so we didn't know that one end of the field does just become quicksand covered with grass. So after a day of it raining nonstop, we essentially lived at Mr. Lee's up in Gettysburg, which is a Chinese buffet run by a wonderful family. So we went up to Lee's, and once again, 2 trucks stuck in mud. It's been pouring nonstop. And my fortune cookie was this. Take your time today so you don't walk in the mud. I didn't shout, fuck you, in the restaurant. I wanted to. I think I said it under my breath. I did take a photo of it and a photo of the U-Haul truck and everything else stuck in mud and put it up on Instagram, though. So we had Fort Trash. We had... Unfortunately, at one point in this whole move, my ex decided it would be helpful to air out the farmhouse, which the unfortunate thing was when you opened all the windows, it, with the high humidity, caused everything to mildew. So we couldn't even we reached a point where we couldn't even transfer the furniture, which is 90% antique furniture, from my farmhouse to here without waiting for a sunny weekend. And then I remember, I think it was Peter. I know Sean Corbin was here. There's a friend of Sean's who's, I think his name's Abe. I can't remember. Maybe that's his father's name. And we were bringing furniture up on a trailer, and then we had like a 3 or 4 stage process of cleaning the mildew, treating the mildew, going through everything, and then I think Murphy's oil soaping everything before bringing it into the building, because we couldn't bring this furniture in that had this nice white layer of fuzz on it. I don't even want to say what happened to the rifles. That was nightmarish, and I don't think John LeBron ever totally got over it. I think I'm
Still hasn't.
Yeah, it's I'm still pulling ones out of the closet where a little bit of rust has appeared, where I'm just like, oh God, just another one that was struck. So I don't know. And in the midst of all this, my friend Mike Hardesty had decided that I should take over the Mason-Dixon Willie's Jeep Show.
Because not enough is happening.
So like the year before, in 2017, we got back from the big Alaska arrest trip, and we have the fall Jeep Show, and Mike's like, hey, you want to take over a Jeep Show? No. Well, so-and-so was going to, he's not going to. And long and short of it was...
You're taking over a Jeep
Show. I'm taking over a Jeep Show. And with that, I completely thought that I was going to be doing that from my farm without all the chaos that I was living in the middle of. So we had an open house here where people got to see. It's neat having people come back to the Jeep Show open house every year now and go, oh, wow, this looks so much better. Oh, wow, this is different. This is different.
The stairs aren't going to kill me this year.
Yeah, the stairs aren't going to kill me. Big shout out to Henry for doing that, for fixing those. So we made it through that, and I think I finally got a bed by November. We finally moved the bed up from the farmhouse, so I wasn't sleeping on an old army cot in the front of the living room anymore. And I remember, did you make it to the first Christmas party we had here?
No, I wasn't at that one.
Okay, so the first Christmas party we had here, I think, was 2018, because that's a traditional thing that I do. So that was and that one was done literally with furniture that was left behind in the barn, folding chairs that people brought, what have you. So that was people's first view of the place. And it was a thank you, too, to so many people who had just come and helped move. And I've been sort of leery. I don't like, I try and avoid asking for help in some ways, just because when you have so many people just, I was telling you earlier about how somebody described this, because I think it might have been I think it might have been when I was trying to figure out why everybody was helping. I know Kevin made the comment about that from him and his dad's perspective. I had done so much to help them with their projects. They wanted to give back.
That's kind of the key here, I think, is that you would do the same for anybody else in that group.
And so to have just have these people showing up with vehicles, with trucks, with just Peter driving 5 hours one way from Virginia every Friday to spend the weekend doing what he could to help to help the move-in go farther, to the Colonel putting a deposit on the place, to my best friend John LeBron not only finding the place, but then for a year throwing $300 a month at the mortgage, and then feeling horribly guilty. He never would stop feeling bad about the fact that he had pneumonia that fall. And so until he passed, we'd be having a conversation about something, and he'd look up and go, "I still feel bad for not helping with the move." And I'm like, "Dude, you were sick." And he's like, "Yeah, but I feel like I should have been there." And I'm like, "You paid part of the mortgage for a year. You've bought this thing and that thing and the other thing." And
You did what you could at the time, and that's what mattered.
yeah, I mean, there's like this building is essentially John's building. I mean, you go up to the bar, and I think we've probably talked about before, there is what looks like an oil painting that hangs behind the bar and it looks like this early 19th century general or admiral or something like that. And it's a company that you can send your photo into, and they'll make this painting with your face on it. And I remember when he got that, he took it to his parents' house and showed it to his mother and goes, "Mom, I found this in an antique shop. Looks like an ancestor of ours." And she's looking at it, and she's looking at him, and she's looking back at it and going, "Oh my God, I think it is." And he said he gave her about 5 or 10 minutes before he's like, "Ma, that's me." So he's behind the bar as the finder. He considered me the founder and him the finder.
Yes.
His moose antlers that he bought are up above the bar. But and I'm trying to get through this without like cracking up at this point. But you wouldn't have Merlin's Barn if it weren't for John LeBron.
Yeah.
We wouldn't be here if it hadn't been for that message in spring of 2018. Merlin, I think I found a solution to all your problems. And that message saved my life and changed so many others.
Yeah.
I think I have to stop there.
That's fair.
Yeah. So, yeah, I think we'll wind it down there because I'm probably going to go cry in a corner for a little bit now. A big thank you to everybody who helped with the move and everybody who has helped with everything since then. You've heard the episode with Matt and I talking about the chimney. There's so many other people who have come up and helped out with things.
Our home would not be our home without so many of these people and their contributions and their care.
There'll be, hopefully I could corner Henry at some point and you'll get a stair episode. So thank you to everybody, our whole family, who makes Merlin's Barn what it is. And thank you for listening. Hopefully this gave you some more insight into the wonder that is this place, the magic that is this place, and the fact that this wouldn't be here without a community. And if it makes you think of a story where you helped someone or someone helped you, or makes you think of anything else, drop us a note.
It's the universe putting weird things together,
Yeah.
making things work.
Yeah, exactly. Drop us a note, merlinsbarn@gmail.com. You can find us on Instagram as well. You can also go directly to our Substack and drop us messages through that. We hope to hear from you, because we would really love to start covering some more listener stories and build the community. Anything else from you?
Thank you for being part of our community.
Okay.
That's all I've got.
Thank you for listening. Thanks for being part of our world. You're all wonderful. Have a awesome morning, day, evening, whatever it
Midday,
is.
dusk.
Midday, dusk, tea time.
Tea time!
Tea time's wonderful. We might be almost at tea time. Take care, all.